All right, welcome back, everybody. It's your boy, IT Professor. We are going to get into this week's market update as we close out the end of the first quarter. There's a lot of things going on right now that we need to pay attention to. And we are also closing out the month, which means there's a lot of reset as we go through the crossover for the Forex market and many other markets. So we're going to see how these things are going to close out. We're going to prepare ourselves for the next quarter and see if we can capitalize on a lot of information. Today, I am joined with Michael Franz. Mike, hey, brother, welcome to the podcast again. Glad to have you today.
What up?
Now, Mike, it seems to me, man, that over the last 30 days, I've noticed a lot of volatility coming into the market these days, a lot of volume, people doing a lot with their money right now. And what do we think is going on, really, with this entire situation? Because I have been able to myself capitalize on a lot of good moves that were pretty solid in one direction, but then would flip, and go completely the other way as if there's a stagnation. So it does consolidate in periods, but there's been big pushes to the upside. We know US 30 is looking like it's going to recover despite what we're seeing with the banks, despite what we're seeing in the news and in the fundamentals of things. But the volume and volatility increase, and even with the lunacy what's going on with China, which we'll get into. What do you feel about the volume and volatility that's coming into these markets?
Yeah, I mean the volatility shows that there's volume coming in, but it also shows there's volume coming out too. So, what goes up must come down, what goes down must come up. So it's about catching that right side of the market to be able to be profiting off of it. But we've seen with everything happening right now, this volatility speaks volumes, in the sense of what people are trying to do at this point. It's almost like for me, when I see this, there's a scramble. People are trying to scramble and get their money right.
That's exactly
because we're seeing what's happening.
Yeah, man, that's gonna cause a lot of issues for a lot of people. And guys, that's why we want to show up today, because as traders, it's very important that we stay aware of where the market's going and what it's going to do in the future to affect us financially, not just for the bigger banks, bigger companies, for those invested in stocks, for those in currencies, and then also those day-to-day 9 to 5 workers. Your pocket may be affected as well, and how you live your life will be affected as well, especially as far as your job situation is concerned, because we have also AI. So a lot of things we're going to get into today. AI, we're talking hyperinflation and deflation. We're also going to be talking the pain ahead, right? The pain ahead. Is there looming depression? We're also going to get into gold and silver and why it's important to be looking in that direction as of right now. The monetary life cycle, and we're taking it into the banks and their closures. We're also going to get into BRICS and what's happening with the BRICS situation and these countries coming together, seeming like, man, really against the dollar currency and how it's going to affect the American economy. So we're going to get into this, and Mike's going to help break some of this stuff down for us so we can appreciate and understand what moves we can make going forward. Mike, lead us out here, brother.
Well, I mean, we've seen what inflation's been doing for the past year and a half, 2 years. So it's been worse than ever in our lifetime. I'm 39 years old, and we hit the highest inflation rate in 40 years. So my whole life, I had never seen anything like this. And there's a lot of people out there like this.
Same.
But I think that the way that we're being hit with like a combination of punches, and we can't recover from one without being hit with the next one. But people don't necessarily see that. That's
the tandem.
What is it?
Man, the tandem of that over the last 3 years, getting hit with 2020, followed up with 2021. We had the crypto boom, the net crash. 2022, we're starting to see the market start dropping off again heavily. And now going into 2023, we got these talks of the big bank closure. We got all these things going on. It's a lot, man. It's a lot to try to even keep up with. And I know even for the average person, let alone the forex trader, it could be blindsided.
Well, I mean, everything that they're trying right now isn't working, but to me, it's just the process of what needs to happen, period. There's checks and balances for everything. If we think that they don't know what they're doing, I mean, we could sit here and say, these guys are assholes. They don't know what they're doing. They're the worst people in the. They know what they're doing, guys. They know what they're doing. Everything is all in the timing, and you can't go from A to C without going through B. And so, these things, this is the checks and balances. Like, okay, cool. We get hit with the pandemic, right? Which it was another tactic to try and reset everything, because like you were talking about, we haven't recovered from 08. Granted, there were rules and regulations placed into the situation in 2012 that made it not be able to happen exactly the same way. But that doesn't mean that we were fully recovered. We never fully recovered. We as a country took a massive gut punch. And so to reset everything, we've had things happen. And now the biggest one with COVID. And look at what's happening in the middle class here. The middle class is being affected so badly that we may see something here that we haven't seen in 100 years.
What's that, Mike?
That's the Great Depression. When you take out that middle class, so there's always going to be, and this is accepting roles at this point, right? And it goes along with understanding, the essence of what everybody goes for politically when they're talking about jobs and equal pay and this, that, and the other. You have to have classes. Like, it's unfortunate to say, but you have to have classes. And it's not from a liberal standpoint, that doesn't work for them. They want everybody here rather than here,
So I really needed to really come across to you guys that are watching that, 08's not over. We're still dealing with the fallout of that. We're still facing coming out of that crisis and really dealing with it and not being aligned, especially economically, to take care of it in the proper way, which is leading us into, like Mike's saying, depression looming. Will this cause a real crash? Now we have the currency, the dollar, not being used in core locations for port that we had set up for many, many years. This is going to be a problem. And if we don't, as a country, government, and everything, society, just accept the fact that here the class system has its place, right? This isn't a equal across the board situation. Everything has a unique location, and if any part of it falls apart, it causes a whole problem within the system.
Well, and how you work yourself out of that middle class is on you, right? And the thing is what we've kind of been conditioned to understand is that, no, I got to stand up for what I believe, and I believe I'm worth this much money per hour compared to somebody else who may be doing more than you, but because you have some experience, you're supposed to immediately get paid X amount of dollars, this, that, and the other. So no, like, everybody has to go through their steps. I'm sorry, but I don't think that the average McDonald's worker, fast food worker, I don't think they should get paid $15 an hour. That's supposed to be a stepping stone job, right? That's supposed to be your, like, everybody's first type job is to go through a fast food restaurant, learn the ins and outs or whatever, understand. I'll tell you, learning the food industry has been crazy. There's a lot that you can learn in the sense of discipline, et cetera, when you work in the food industry. And so these are supposed to be stepping stones to getting better. But everybody wants a participation trophy in the sense of, oh, I want minimum wage to be paid this. And what people don't understand is that when you sit there and cry for it and you end up getting it, it's going to change the landscape of how everything works, because now once the minimum goes up, guess what else goes up? Regular costs, just in general.
Yes.
And then it just becomes the norm.
We're seeing it right now.
And it definitely just shows the lack of education amongst a lot of people when it comes to how the American economy is set up. Like you said, it's a stepping stone. These little jobs, these waitress positions, fast food working positions, that is entry level. You're then supposed to take that position and go into other ventures that will allow you to maximize your area, whether that means you to go get more skills, right? There's so many opportunities over many of the last 10 years to go get other educations that are skill sets you can do online, but you got to find that time. We do know that there are pains in society that are going to cause people to have issues with making that adjustment. But this isn't a world where it's no longer, not eat to be, eat or be killed. Like that's still the situation. Like you still got to get out here and hustle. You still got to grind a little bit. I know there's this whole hustle and culture grind, and people aren't with it. But here's the thing, man. You live in America. This is how the economy works. Don't forget how history has been for this country. And for you to sit here and act like you're in La La Land is exactly what the problem is. They have you in this, like my wife likes to say, pumpkin spice latte situation, right? You think everybody's all honky dory because they protected you. Military they established, the economy they established is protect you, and that's the thing about it. For people who don't want to play at a high level, they will feed you, they will clothe you, they will take care of you, but they will give you the bare minimum. So you're gonna have to accept it. And like you said, with this change in income, when it comes to that change in income, all that's doing is adjusting you and adjusting them to keep everything at the same base level, and then they just rising the prices of the costs for us to live. Man, come on, this is a real messed up situation. It becomes even more of a problem when we're talking about them now adjusting for the same people that have been complaining about minimum wage, the same people that want these 4-day work weeks, but not understanding, again, the economy, lack of education, lack of information. You are screwing yourself because you're losing your benefits by going down to what, 36, 38 hours, Mike?
32.
32
A 4-day
hours.
work week is 32 hours.
Man, you're gonna wish that you had those extra days.
Yeah, but here's the thing. That's trying to settle the great, what is it? What are they calling it? The great resignation, right? People are quiet quitting right now. And why? Because we learned during COVID, when you can work at home, there's a little bit of extra freedoms here and there. So people were more productive in certain aspects. Like people would probably sleep an extra hour and then go double hard for the next hour, right? Go rest or do something else, go run some errands, and then work double hard the next hour, to where the production doesn't lag, nor, and at some point it actually increases. Why? Because people had the flexibility of doing what they needed to do by working at home, right?
Right.
Now by traveling back into the office, it's an inconvenience. People are unhappy, right? People are unhappy with what they're getting paid. Here we go with this pay structure shit again.
Yeah.
Right now we can't necessarily have increases in pay, which we saw the average hourly earnings go down over the past month. That's not good, because we saw a drop in 200,000 jobs from one month to another in the sense of the NFP days, right?
Yeah.
So the downside is what we're getting to here with hyper deflation needing to step in here at some point. Right now, with inflation coming up, that's taking money out of our pockets, right? That means everything costs more. So we have this little amount of money in our pockets right now, right? Well, what happens when hyperdeflation comes in? That little bit amount of money that you have is now worth this much. You might, at that, it's like we can't win even for losing, right? I either don't have a lot because it's very valuable and the supply is hard to get in my own country. But if I were to travel, I could take $10 and turn that into a ton of money down in a different country, right? But what happens when the deflation comes into play and then I can't go anywhere with my money because now it's just worthless. It's worthless here in my state, it's worthless here in my country, and it's worthless outside of this country.
Sounds like a plan to get rid of it.
Yes, which kind of comes into something that we've talked about a few times here, which if we don't understand, I think we were going to get into monetary cycles at some point. Things change when it comes into monetary cycles. And as of November, if you hadn't caught it beforehand, ISO 20022 is in the works and is off and running. It's off and running, and that is supposed to replace the central banking system. And that central banking system is what we're built off right now, and they're trying to change something else in the back end that's based off crypto. Now we've said it time and time again, there's 7 different cryptos to utilize within this system, but that just gives the need now to then have crypto around and working. So these are interesting times, and I never thought that I would be involved with seeing this and recognizing when things are happening and changing. But this shit is scary. It's scary as hell. So, by witnessing a lot of these changes and how they don't give a damn who they hurt, who gets screwed in the end, you start understanding who you really need to have around you, and looking around and being like, okay, what's important at this point?
What I love about you bringing that up, Mike, and I completely agree with you as far as how those prices are going to mess up a lot of people, even with those, like we talked about earlier, even with those hourly rates going up. We're going to see now this crypto phase, and the whole ISO thing is crazy to me, because if you go in the Discord chat, guys, and check it out, I think we placed it into a podcast episode, but the ISO 2202, right? I think that's what it is. The ISO is already set up for banks to adopt and us to move in that phase, which begs me the question, with BRICS happening and then getting rid of the DXY, getting rid of the dollar, is now the United States focus to really maybe utilize crypto and find purpose in it as we make this digital transition. Does the United States think it's ahead of the game due to that, right? Due to knowing that China's making the moves that it's making? Will the digital space give the United States an opportunity to make some type of difference is a big interest in it. So those changes right there is going to affect the economy and every day-to-day citizen who doesn't even know, how to position themselves. They've completely tossed crypto out the window, of course, after the last drop, and the banks are in the back end making these types of digital moves. For me, being the regular person, Mike, how can I make a difference, man? What can I do to my life to prepare myself if I'm not aware of these monetary cycles? I don't know what's going on, but I need to do something about it. Because even at a basic level, at least we do know that we can tap into silver. For those of us that can't afford gold, let's move over into looking at silver, looking at 20, I think we're looking at $13 coming.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. 100%. I mean, here we come in talking about the classes of different individuals, right? Now, your higher class are going to be sitting here buying the gold. For me and you, to buy an ounce of gold, I'd rather we talked about this. I'd rather go buy 100 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold. I'd rather do that, right? Because silver is at some point supposed to hit $1,000 an ounce. That same rate of return going to gold is going to possibly put gold at, what did the lady say, 15K, right?
Yeah, I mean, gold to 15K, man. What an announcement to make.
Which is crazy, because what was it, back in 2019? We were talking about, Mike, you really see gold to 3K?
3K.
Yeah. 3K.
That was our.
Yeah, I'm way off at that point. But the fact that we see it going bullish is the important thing, like seeing a need for the gold standard to come back. I mean, let's really talk about when we're trading, when we're talking about what's involved in trading and why are what are we trading within Forex? We're trading the exchange rates between currencies, right? There's nothing backing this shit up. You know what I mean? This is the value of each country putting a monetary policy in place, what they can borrow, what they can let go of, etc., what can be released off of balance sheets to have your country's currency at the goal is to have it at a strong currency inside your country and out. But there's always going to be give and take here with imports and exports and stuff like that being implemented. So when we're talking about gold and silver, that is something that can always be fallen back on. If right now the dollar is only as valuable as to, you know, how it's traded, it's a piece of paper, it's a note, right? So I mean, to be able to trade that at a currency exchange counter in the banking system, like in the Forex system, etc., the banks trading it on the back end, literally trading it on the back end, currency for currency. I mean, shit, when I bank for Chase, and if I go into Chase and I say, hey, I need to convert X, I'm going on a trip to Europe, I need to get some euros. They give me euros. Guess what? They've already done the original exchange, and now because I'm buying it, it's going to add into that even more. Exactly. Those trades go into everything. Me spending my US dollar over in Mexico is going to just cause things to move, right? But that's what it's built off of. It's built off of the use.
Well, now for me, this becomes a pain in the butt because of me and Felicia travel a lot. We love to travel. We still have travel plans, but now my dollar does not go as far anymore as to where I'm going. I mean, almost damn near is not going to be, utilized at all in the countries that I like to go to, Mexico being one of them.
Well, and consider when we talk about with hyper deflation coming into play, now that's good. It means that you can't even spend your dollar over there and get anything in return because it's worthless, it just shows a strain on how this works. So when we're talking about transitioning back into the gold standard, you can always rely on a precious metal because there's always going to be a supply and demand for it, and how that gets traded and exchanged. People will always do something for gold and silver. They may not do something for a piece of paper that is worthless at some point. You have a $20 bill, but it's only worth $1, literally, even though it says 20 on it. This literal value is nothing. Give me some gold and silver because I know that somebody else is going to take that I need to pay for their services. You know what I mean? Or their goods if they have something that I need. It's a universal fail-safe, if you ask me, by utilizing metals, and like I said, if we didn't have classes, everybody would be able to afford gold, but not everybody can. Us middle-class individuals, we just have to be ahead of the curve to be able to go buy some gold. But how do you do that? You buy silver early enough.
Exactly.
You buy enough of that, enough of this, enough of that, enough of this, and then at that point, turn around, exchange it into a whole bunch of gold, and let that continue going up, up, and up, and up.
So I mean, we don't tell you these things as if there's nothing that we can't do, right? We have options available to us, but only if we're active in getting the information. Only if we're going to do the due diligence, go out and figure out, okay, what opportunities are out here for me to make some adjustments, make some moves to prepare myself for something like this. When I started my trading career back in 2018, and it really just dawned on me. Shout out to Will Smith for putting me on. But dude, that opened me up to so much knowledge and so much criteria in areas I was completely unaware of. And as soon as I got that information, I started to see life change. I started to see things go different. I'm thankful for the people that told me, invest in crypto a little bit here and here, for 2 to 3 years. Trey, shout out to the brother Trey for putting me on that as well. He's like, for the next 2-3 years, lock in, tap in, load it up. I was even able a year later to inform my family as well once it really bottomed out. and Trey told me about 2019, so 2020, when things really bottomed out to a location and then took off from 3K to 60K, I was able to, allow my family, put my family on, right? This information is crucial. This is why I love the fact that we do what we do. So becoming a trader, ultimately, more than being an entrepreneur, you're an economist, right? It's up to you to understand that information and know what to do and where the market is going at that time. So it's a very beneficial aspect of having this in your repertoire. So it was definitely fantastic, right? Getting this knowledge. This is why I encourage people, most definitely go do the research. I'm not telling everybody, yo, go join ITU, go join ITU. We're gonna do what we can to make sure we get all the information here for you guys within ITU as students. But for those of you that decide, yo, this is not the location for you, there are many avenues out there that have this information, and you need to be up on it. So I'm just here to help make people aware. We're here to help make people aware. This information has helped me, it's helped me position my family. Even now, the last few years, we've been able to make decisions based upon the information I've been able to gather now, being in the Forex game and analyzing these markets, being with a team of guys that's analyzing these markets, we're able to adapt and adjust for our families. And you want to stay up on that. There's a lot of guys, even in higher class areas of the government, and put me onto game, me being a government employee at that time as well, on the situation and what was really going on and how we really need to prepare ourselves, getting the gold and silver. I've heard that tons of times over the last 3 years to stack that up right now because things are going wild. And if you're just getting into the workforce, you're going to be affected by this. You need to know what's going on. So even when it comes to this BRICS situation we're dealing with, I'm well aware of what's happening with the Silk Road, right? China has been working the Silk Road for some time now. And that's basically the ports that they've set up between those international areas, excluding the United States. We've known about this. I've at least known about this since 2020, thanks to the homie. You know, you can put your name out there, but thanks to the homie for letting me know about that situation, because now this also makes sense what's happening with BRICS. Now, Mike, just get into BRICS and break down what that is, how that's going to deal with the marketplace, and how that's going to affect us as a citizen in the United States.
So, BRICS, if you're not familiar, if anybody's not familiar with it, it's the 5 countries that are Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Okay. These areas, which now include Mexico, so we got to keep an eye out for Mexico, because Mexico is kind of a sneaky country, very populated, very powerful, and everybody's underestimated their power. They're now part of BRICS. BRICS is a group of countries coming together in an emerging markets type fashion to have the fastest growing economies. Okay, that's the commonality between these. And that's what's funny about Mexico. We look at Mexico and the assumption is Mexico is a poor country, but that's not the case. Mexico is a very powerful country, believe it or not. And they're just south of us, right? They're just south of us. And we have chosen to create problems rather than try to become better allies in this sense. I mean, that's, I think, where the US really screwed up. But nonetheless, these countries are, again, in the highest level of emerging markets for fastest growing economic growths, with powerful, strong monetary policies for their countries as well. See, right now, because of everything going on, you listen to Jerome Powell, and Jerome Powell, like, they know what they're doing, right? But you listen to what he's talking about with our monetary policy, and it is in shambles right now. Why? Because they cannot control inflation. Inflation continues to go up. Interest rates are continuing to go up. And as we've talked about, that doesn't work. Then we start seeing layoffs and firings and unemployment skyrocketing, right? and leading into the Great Depression. Couple interesting things to look out for should we get into the Great Depression. Now, should we get into a second Great Depression? I don't know. Do we feel a depression? Absolutely. But you have to look at GDP. Once GDP reaches -10, which at one point we were at -6. We were at -6 at one point. That was at the height of COVID. It was ridiculous, but we were facing a depression because once it hits -10 as the GDP, that's when we're in a depression. Okay. When we see, what is it, 3 quarters in a row of declining GDP, not a certain number, just the fact that it's declining, which we saw 4 quarters in a row, we're in a recession. This is why people were arguing about, are we in a recession or not? Strong job market, but yet we saw GDP go down for 4 quarters in a row. We are in a recession officially at that point. Now, we did rebound a little bit in the sense of GDP, where I think it's at positive 2.7%. But if we go back down, when we start seeing layoffs start happening because inflation is out of control, GDP will drop. When it hits -10, we're in a depression. In 1933, which was the height of this depression itself, these numbers are staggering, by the way. GDP was at a -26.7%, almost 3 times as high as what it would be for just your bottom level depression. Unemployment was at a 24.9, so let's just call it 25%. 25% high, okay? That equated to, what did we say it was in the thing I found? Was it 12.8 million people?
Yep, exactly.
So now we're getting a little bit off topic here, but I'll wrap it all back up. I'll wrap it all back up.
80 million, I think, is ours, right?
If we take it into time now, where we've had population growth, this, that, the other, yes, we will be looking at 25%. If we hit that again, we will be looking at about 80 million people. Now, does this make sense as to why we have certain things that are conspiracies, right, about COVID being a device, COVID being a weapon, HIV and AIDS being a weapon, stuff like this? What is it? H1N1, all the what was it, Zika? All bird flu, people were dying from all these things, but yet all these things were patented sicknesses, illnesses.
Don't be ignorant. If I could just weigh in real quick on that, man.
Yeah.
Man, it's just very important that you guys aren't ignorant to the situation when it comes to these diseases. Like, they are really real aware. Most of the time, as much as they have the disease that's out there, they have the solution. Like, you got to pay attention to the sleight of hand. I don't know if any of you guys are from the Northeast, or, you know, from New York or from California, LA, stuff like that, where it is a lot of that happening on a day-to-day basis. In our government, it is the same place. So you got to just pay attention, man. Pay attention. They are definitely going to utilize these diseases in one situation where it's like, yeah, okay, we get it. Yes, a lot of lives were lost. So we feel for them, most definitely. But how are they going to utilize this to try to utilize it as a capitalization play, or a
ploy for the people that are still
right? Exactly. So when we're facing these type of situations, look, if we ended up with 80 million people out of jobs, that would be crazy. Like, that would be something that has never ever happened in the history of life, as far as we know.
People heard.
Bro, 80 million is an astronomical number to even think about. People having these types of job losses and not being in a position to take care of themselves, relying on that 9 to 5, relying on that day-to-day money coming through. If this becomes that kind of situation, it's really going to be a lot hurt people.
Right. And then we're going to be looking to a government that, you know, has set all this whole thing up. How can you have faith in a government that brought this the way that it is and is sitting here lying to our faces when we can see what's actually happening on the back end. So this is kind of like wake up, people understand what's going on. I'm not taking anything away from what these things have done as far as the effect. The effect is unbearable, but nonetheless, like you said, Zay, like these things have been used as tactics, right? And what these things also show is, from my perspective, heartless and gutless type actions, right? When people that we appoint as humans, as Americans, we appoint people in there to lead our country, and these things happen on their watch when we're supposed to be one of the strongest powers. So here's where we wrap it back in, because America has always been looked at as a superpower. We've always had a strong military, right? And that's what everything was based upon. What happens when these countries say, we don't care about your military? Because guess what? We're going to assemble on the back end in a different way that you've never seen before.
And if you ask me, that back end is definitely, at least one of the things, is them getting and hacking the information of our F-35. So that's no joke. And utilizing in their J-20 jet. We are talking about World War III, bro. This is some astronomical stuff to be hacking into an F-35 fighter jet and getting that kind of information. This is not
right. And so when it's almost like, okay, how would that happen if that's supposed to be classified information anyway? Damn. You know, like someone has to be able to give it out, or it's being given in exchange for something else, period, because that's supposed to be information that's on lock. You and I can't know about that, but you're going to tell me a whole country's government knows about it? That's, to me, like, there's
something adding up.
Yeah. So we're talking about BRICS. BRICS was a group that came to form to actually exclude America in this, right? So these 5 countries, and now 6 countries, have come together, and fastest growing economies, but it's all coming together also from the standpoint of oil. When you control oil, you control the world. Yep. We know that, right? So ask yourself this as well. Biden is pushing for what? Electric and clean energy and electric vehicles, this, that, and the other, right? Well, rewind a couple weeks ago, he approved for drilling to start happening in Alaska so we could start using our resources all of a sudden. Why would he do that?
Right.
Well, because around the same time, China, is it Emperor Xi? Is he an emperor or president? Either way, Xi goes over to the Middle East and negotiates a peace between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Now, we're talking about 2 heavy religious countries that have been going at it for hundreds of years.
Hundreds.
And all of a sudden, China can put that to an end. And they're talking about bringing them both into BRICS as 2 more countries. This is scary. This is scary, guys. It's scary, but it's happening.
The Avengers, man.
This is why, yeah, but we're being treated like we're Thanos.
Facts.
But I guess the real question should be is, why wouldn't we be treated like Thanos?
Look, I'm gonna say that, dude. I get it if that's the perspective, if that's the idea, if that's how they're looking at things. If we go back in history, look, America ain't got the best track record out here. And I've traveled a lot, so man, I know when you go overseas, Americans are treated substantially different and not looked at as high as we think we are.
Yeah, facts. And it's okay. And how's it go? Like, you don't have to love me, but we have to be able to work with each other. Right.
To sustain.
And the thing was, though, is that not only did these countries not like us or love us, but we weren't willing to work with them to make it an easy process. Our government has taken into consideration these different terms and different presidents and what they've done. They've taken advantage of a lot of situations
Since the beginning. That's never,
you know. But this is politics. This is American politics. American politics is terrible. It's terrible. Yeah, it's
to say the
terrible.
least, for sure.
So we got
we brought it on ourselves.
Campaigning. Yeah, but we got campaigning coming up in a year.
Yes. It's
1
like,
year.
Man, perfect timing for a looming election on the line. Like nobody's forgotten about the Biden and Trump debacle. When we traded that last time, that was a complete nightmare to deal with. And honestly, it was the best to kind of stay out the market, even though, Trump's tweets gave us a little cash here and there. But for the most part, it was a nightmare in the markets. And that hasn't changed now. We still have the loom and doom of the Trump and Biden hate going back and forth. And now you add everything we just talked about on top of an election following right behind that.
Right, but this is exactly what I think they want, because everybody's going to go panic vote. They're going to panic vote. If he decides to run again, even with a, what is it now, 41% approval rating, which at one point was 33%, and like the lowest of any president ever in history, right? If he decides to run again for a second term in a row, and he's either probably going to have to go against Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis. Donald Trump gets arrested, you can kiss that goodbye. But either way, it's probably what we're looking at. I think people still continue to vote for Biden because then they want him to finish the job. You got us into this and get us out. You got us in, get us out. But the question is he intelligent enough to get us out?
Right. Team around him and his intelligence have to make it happen, and or at least get out before the fray.
Well, I think he. I mean, I think the war happens on his watch if that happens. If he goes in for a second term, I think it may not even be him. It may be him getting elected and then within the 4 years stepping down at some point, letting Kamala take back over. And that's kind of
for the shit where Kamala leading the pack doing some shit like this.
I don't know. Part of me says no, I don't want that to happen. But another part of me says, yeah, I want it to happen, because sometimes like people don't learn until they actually get hit with, whatever truth that's in their face at that point. And the actions are going to speak louder than the words. The actions, you and I can sit here and we can already see what needs to happen. We know what type of individual this is. And no, I don't want her taking control. But there are some people that do, and they're not going to learn until she actually is, and seeing what happens. Unfortunately, we're going to have to be at the mercy. Like right now, we can sit here, for anybody who voted for Joe Biden, we can sit here and say, oh, well, guess what? This stuff is happening because we're 3 years into something that could have been completely different. But we're not. My pockets are hurting. My wallet is hurting. My refrigerator is hurting, Like, it's hard to eat these days, you know what I mean? Like, there's people that are out here suffering, And like you said, no president wants any of this to happen on their watch, but it's going to have to happen at some point.
Right.
But
somebody.
That's where does it come to the point to where people learn before they actually make the decision anymore?
Here's the thing about people not bumping their head across the pavement. We me and Felicia say this all the time. People are hard-headed. People can be very, very, very hard-headed when it comes to prioritizing the right information and aligning with the right information that's going to help their situations, right? And of course, we're here to be that source, but with the team that we have in front of us, right, our presidential team, I don't know if I feel very comfortable with that team leading us through some type of crisis like this. When we're talking about Kamala taking the lead, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I would rather have somebody in line that's gonna step up to the plate, like we talked about earlier, man. It's an Avengers Thanos situation. If we're gonna say that this is the Thanos of this planet, bro, you better get the snap in, man.
It is, but we're seeing something like as far as any form of a reset, we're living in it right now, you know. And I was talking, shout out to my buddy Justin. Justin has been rocking with me for years, through, you know, previous companies, etc.
Yeah.
He and I were talking the other day because we share things through Instagram. And I was telling him the same thing that we were talking about, which was about the BRICS situation. And he said, dude, I've been kind of out of the loop on some of these things because he was going down the rabbit hole too much. And I was doing the same thing. You know, at some point you kind of just need to accept that shit is going to be happening. We're going to be the ones that are going to take responsibility for it. And unless people start changing the way that they think, it's going to continue to happen over and over and over again.
Like what we're dealing with is just absolutely insane, man. We're really crazy times. Things that I had no idea was coming. For those of you that, of course, my age, you know, maybe you and your family had no idea as well. But how, you know, we gotta deal with this. Is absolutely insane. And another thing is, did they even was this an awareness once they were putting Biden in office, right? It could have been a place from the jump. Like this is a lot to take in and a pill to swallow, you know, Mike, with something like that, I gotta put the message out there to ask this generation, my generation, bro, step up, realize this is our time. Like this is the opportunity of a lifetime for us. We have more than enough access to the things we need. I know, especially if you come from where I come from, maybe you don't know. Maybe you don't know how to move. You don't know what to do. Maybe you don't know the next step to go from where you are to the next level. It's because we wasn't provided the right information, man. I was in rooms, I know, in high school that allowed me to get a lot of information, that allowed me to put me in myself in the position I am now, just staying aware of things that I call IO. So if you're not aware of the situation, you don't know the next step, you don't know how to move. Dude, I'm trying to start a business. Dude, I'm trying to get a real estate. Dude, I want to learn how to invest. Dude, I want to learn how to trade. Whatever it is, bro, I would love for ITU to help get you into that path. But even if this is not the step, dude, use YouTube, use Google, use baby tips, use anything you can to get the information you need to make a difference, because it's about to get real out here. You need to be ready. You need to be prepared. Like, you got to understand, the American economy operates on business ownership at the highest of levels. You know what I mean? Real estate ownership at the highest of levels. Land ownership at the highest of levels. But they fed us the game into the 9-to-5. They fed us the game into the employment system and things like that. So it's important that we start to make maneuvers and make the moves necessary. And Forex, one of the vehicles that can help. And we put in the time, we put in the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years into putting into getting this information and studying and crafting and building a foundation for people to thrive on. Yo, this is what ITU is all about. This is what we want to make happen for the people out there that are trying to be like, yo, this is where I'm at. And how fast? How can I get from where I am to where I'm trying to go with the information you just provided to protect myself and my family? We can all make sure that happens right here.
Any last minute thing?
Yeah, I'm curious just to kind of think about this in the grand scheme of things. Thinking of these numbers that we were talking about, as far as like comparing the Great Depression to what's happening now and what could happen, like the numbers wise, right? You know, it becomes more of a more valid question of what happens to the Forex market, especially if the currency that the world is based upon, which is the US dollar, goes away, you know?
Because the thing about it is, Luke, it's the market, bro. The markets are going to be here. You know, even if this all goes down, hey, things go left, right, and the third, right? We know the dollar backs the market currently, but they're going to switch the situation. The people that make money that way is global. Okay. So getting this skill set right here, in my opinion, is the best one you can lock down long term. It's the best one you can have in the back pocket, to utilize no matter where you are on the globe. As long as we, of course, maintain technology the way we've maintained it, which I don't see that changing for our generation, maybe even the next one or two. So take advantage of the programs and the education systems out here that are going to give you the right information. Not everybody's going to be right. You're going to have to siphon through a lot of the knowledge out there. But dude, you come straight here to ITU, we've already gone through the ups and downs. We've already siphoned the headaches and the hell that comes along with learning the Forex game. So that's why we come, right back in to give it to you to throw in your back pocket during these.
Thinking of the Forex market, we're changing, we're trading the exchange rates. Well, if we have to go back to a gold standard where exchange rates don't matter at that point,
We're still looking.
would be, until there's a recovery. But if you take out the US dollar as the foundation and it crumbles and there's no exchange rate, then yeah, I'm curious how that would work. Like, I don't have the answer. I'm asking this as a rhetorical question because,
For sure.
this is something to kind of think about, because if this isn't a get rich quick scheme, trading is a valuable thing. But it also speaks to the urgency depending on how long this whole thing is going to last. We saw with it, 100 years ago almost, that session in life, that Great Depression lasted 10 years. 10 years. And most profitable traders didn't start getting profitable until year 3 or 4.
Hmm.
So if you're thinking about it now, I wouldn't be thinking about it too much longer. Make your decision.
Man, Mike, now we're talking about the fall of the Forex market, and that could definitely come about within, 5 to 10 years. So with that being said, guys, protect yourself. Watch out, dude. This is even something we're talking about, offering an education system you that's going to lock in a skill set for you to put in thousands of dollars in your pocket in these years before the possibility of a depression is going to give you the opportunity to get your shekels, get your silvers, get your gold, and protect yourself out here. It's really, really, really a monumental that you become aware of what's happening and put yourself in a position to do something about it. Literally, Forex is the fastest way I know to go from where you are to the possibility of being in the position to afford the things you need to afford, to invest in, to make sure if a depression happens, you are protected. Mike, thanks for joining us, brother. I'm gonna holla at all of you guys in the next one. This is your market update into the first quarter. Peace.